Welcome back to the Health, Weight Loss and Wellness Show. And today, our very special guest is Caroline Purvey. And she is a #1 best-selling author with her book, Feel It to Heal It, international speaker, CEO, and founder of the Total Release Experience program. And that's in the UK. And she's also voted in the top 10 women to watch in wellbeing. Caroline's, and we've got her here, so we're so blessed. And Caroline's program is shared globally and has been adopted by the Jewish community, fire and rescue, police, and the prison service, which is an amazing feat. And I want to get into that in a little bit. But first, I want to thank you for joining us today and being here and giving us your time, because you've got such an amazing breadth of experience there. So thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Jodie, it's my absolute pleasure. And I'm just thrilled to be invited to join this amazing offering that you're giving to so many women around the world. So thank you. And I'm glad to be contributing to that.
Yeah, thank you. And look, I really love that people like yourself do make yourself available for these sorts of shows, because I think your message is really important. And I really want to start with, if it's okay with you, is there's a really amazing story around the Total Release Experience. And I want to know whether it's okay, whether you just share that experience, especially the one with Malawi. You know, when I read that, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. So yeah, would you mind sharing that with us?
Oh, no, I'd love to. You know, a very special time in my life. So I had this phone call at very short notice from a lady that my son had connected with. She was short of somebody on an expedition challenge that she was running in Malawi. And I emailed her and said, I'd like to know more. Well, the next thing, I get a phone call. And the organisation that she put into this program was going to be happening kind of 2 weeks ahead. And she told me what it was about. But she said, look, I know it's short notice, but think about it. And I said, I've thought, I'm going. I didn't need asking twice.
Yeah.
Why? Because Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world. And I knew that what I had, if I was focused, if I could share it with anybody out there, it would be of huge benefit for them. And so got everything together, and I have to correct myself. It wasn't 2 weeks. It was less than 2 months, which when you're going to a country like that is not a lot of time to prepare. Yeah. In terms of fundraising, vaccinations, you know, organising what you need. It was a whole exciting time, but at the same time, making sure that you had everything you needed so that your trip wasn't going to be spoilt by, you know, not having the right things in place.
Yeah.
We were out there for 10 days and it was amazing. One of the most amazing things was having a homestay with a family and actually experiencing their life as they live it. And I must say, when I came back, putting it aside, it was approaching Christmas time, and it was like, I do not understand how we can spend all this money at Christmas and have all of these things when you've got families that live in 4 walls, literally, with 6 pieces of furniture with the whole house. You know, a trolley was the kitchen. But a wonderful experience and amazing, lovely, beautiful people. But when we visited the children's centre, there was a lot of celebration and talking going on. And I spoke to one of the leaders and I said, this is what I do in the UK and I would love to share it. And he said, this sounds just like what we need. And I'm not kidding you. I said, we've only got 30 minutes. Within that time, he pulled 9 people together. We went into a small room with a concrete floor. I gave a whistle-stop tour. They laid on the floor. I guided them through the practice and they sat up and they had smiles on their face. They all had a slightly different experience, as they would, but it was exciting and it was the beginning of something quite amazing, because we chatted afterwards and I said, okay, we can partner. I'm going to train you online. Let's just leave you with what I can leave you with. And that's what I did. 9 people. There's now 19 plus adults that have gone through the guided training that I give them, because it's very different out there. They don't need all the resources that we've got. They get it. And they have taught over 4,000 children the program, because children have to deal with abandonment, they have to deal with abuse, there's living in a world of poverty, sickness, and witnessing all the things that they witness if they're that unfortunate. And it was so exciting to share that. And you know what? Every day I'm getting messages from different people in Malawi. We have such a connection. I want to go back there, and I will go back there. But very proud of having left that footprint, and that they can share with their community.
That is an amazing story. And when I read that, I was just like, it just goes to show that one person can make a massive difference. And what an incredible difference that you've made there to people that really need it. So congratulations on that, and thank you for doing that. We don't often get thanked a lot, I think, for our thankless work. Well, I do, I have clients that do, but I think for that, people don't see that. They don't see that there's people like yourself going out there in the world and making these massive changes in people's lives that really need it. So now I'm really super curious about the Total Release Experience program. And I'm curious to know what that is. So what can you share with us about that?
Well, where do I start? What I say, when people say, what do you do? I say, well, you know what? I empower people to find freedom from their physical, mental, and emotional pain, so they can live the life they want and they deserve. And why should any of ladies out there around the world that are sitting there, maybe it's with trivial, annoying back, hip, neck, shoulder pain, maybe it's gut problems, maybe it's anxiety, panic, depression, headaches, can't sleep, head fog, no concentration, the list goes on.
Sounds like my list.
Yeah. And we don't have to live with that. And when did it become okay to live with that? When did we give ourselves permission to say, it's all right, you can have this pain every day of your life? Yeah. Because I tell you what, it's never going to completely go away. And that is because there is a muscle in our body called the psoas, P-S-O-A-S. Now, any of you hearing this for the first time might think, the what? As most do. Yeah. Even the medics that I work with, it's like, think I know where it is, but actually they don't really. Why would you? It's because it's tacked right to the back of our body, underneath the diaphragm, behind all the organs, down to the top of the legs. Of course, its important function is to hold our upper body to our lower body. Yep. But what's more important, which is why we call it the hidden treasure, it's where you hold fears, emotions. It's attached to the diaphragm through connective tissue, and therefore also impacts your breathing. Why is this? That's because if you think of a baby coming into the world, and we've all been there, the startle response is that the first thing, that shock of coming out of that warm, lovely, cozy space into the big world. And that startle response draws tension into the body, into that muscle. Now, for the rest of your life, every stressful, overwhelming, or traumatic experience you've ever had, there's been that tonic freeze, that flinch, drawing the tension into the body. And then, of course, we go into fight, flight, because it's about survival, whatever it is we're dealing with. So what happens then is what we are supposed to do is to release the tension, to release the adrenaline and cortisol from that energetic firing up to do what we have to do to get through any situation. But we don't do that because we've humanized ourselves to the point where the action of releasing is seen as cowardly, it's seen as weak, it's seen as not up to the job. And that is primarily because we don't understand what the body is meant to do. Are you with me so far, Jodie?
Yeah, yeah. It's really
so
interesting.
what is it? Well, I want you to imagine that a lion's chasing a zebra, and the zebra will run and run and run until he's free of the predator. And there's one thing that zebra does before he eats grass, and that can happen 10 times in a day. He'll stand there and he'll have a little shiver and a little shake and get rid of that adrenaline and cortisol. And here's an aha moment. If you have a dog, I'm sure you might have seen the dog shake.
Yeah.
Many, when I ask, why is the dog shaking? Because it's frightened.
Yeah.
It's scared. But actually it isn't. And when we understand that, we realize, okay, that dog is shaking just before it's going to the vet, or it's shaking just before firework night or straight after. What it's doing is making sure that it's not storing adrenaline and cortisol and building that tension in its body.
Yeah.
Now, it's a reptilian brain practice, and we all have the reptilian brain. The wonderful David Attenborough says we're all animals in clothing. Reptilian brain is responsible for the most powerful systems in your body, breathing and your heart. And as you're listening to us chatting here, you know, as I'm sitting here chatting to Jodie, our bodies are functioning without us having to do anything. Most do not recognize the importance of breath and heart until something goes wrong. And then what happens? We're debilitated, or worst case scenario, it's game over. And when we release from our body, that's the third missing piece of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
I want to make that psoas simple to understand in terms of we love simplicity. Don't need to keep bamboozling people with the science side of things. Okay, it is to do with the science of the body and the fact we're energy and the psoas and the rest of it. But imagine yourself as a bucket, a stress bucket. We all know what a stress bucket is. Now see yourself as that stress bucket and the layers of history that you've got in there, of the stressful, overwhelming and traumatic experiences. And I have to say, many of those you might not even remember.
Yeah.
Because they go back to birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Children freeze. That's how they survive their trauma. And so therefore, it's not until their adult life they start to notice, hang on, my bucket's feeling a bit full because of all the reasons I gave earlier, the back pain, the hip, neck, shoulder pain, the anxiety, the IBS, you know, all of those things. And at worst, when blood pressure goes up, it's heart attack, stroke, cancer. And I have to say, I hate the word suicide. Nobody wants to take their own life, but their bucket is so full they cannot cope.
Yeah.
And we all have that tool within us to be able to release. And that's what our program's about. How to reconnect with what your body already knows and let your body do the talking. And the results are phenomenal. And that's why my book was so important. There are so many amazing stories. I call myself a miracle junkie. Yeah. You know, because the miracles that come back. And every week I'm witnessing another miracle.
Yeah. It makes so much sense, doesn't it? Like, well, the stuff that we experience, our emotional and our physical and our spiritual trauma, you know, something happens to us, like in those moments, you know, we're feeling all sorts of things. We're experiencing all sorts of things, and you know, your body kind of shuts down too sometimes. And so you're not hungry, or, you know, you don't want to do anything, you don't want to go anywhere. And you may go down to really basic kind of living, like eating and just sleeping and doing nothing else. So, you know, I think it would be silly to feel that there's not other things going on with our body and as we're experiencing these events. So it's really, how did you discover this muscle? Is it a muscle?
It is a muscle, yeah, big muscle. It's like a cloak.
Yeah.
But just to just to say there that it's an innate ability that we all have. And we all have, as you just said, this is what we feel. But isn't it interesting how when the mind and body are connected, but when the body starts to break down, it's like, I've got a gut problem. So we go and see a gut doctor. I've got a heart problem. I go and see a heart doctor. I've got a head problem. I go and see a psychologist. But actually, it's the whole picture.
Yeah.
And holding tension in the body, because that's what we do, is embedded in the body's muscle memory. It therefore, if you imagine, we're like coiled springs. It's like tightening guy ropes.
Yeah.
And then all the systems in the body start to malfunction. Can you imagine lots of interwoven roadways, and all the traffic gets more and more congested until it becomes a complete standstill?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden something starts to move, and then the traffic's flowing again.
Yeah.
And that's the same with our body. All our energy lines get clogged up and blocked, and so therefore all of the systems in the body, and I'm not kidding here, every single system that breaks down in the body, take a step back and think, well, what have I been through? What's going on in my body that's caused this to happen? And especially, for women, traumatic childbirth.
Yeah.
I've worked with ladies that they've been traumatized by the birth of their child. They've got no relationship with their partner. And yet, as soon as they start to release that tension, game on, which is wonderful.
I'm just thinking about it myself, like, and maybe somebody or some watching at home will relate, is, sometimes you're sitting there and you don't realize it, but you're so tense. You may have had a stressful day, or you're maybe just so used to living with stress that you're uptight. And so I'll be like this. And sometimes I'm laying in bed and I realize that I'm holding my shoulders up, or I'm holding tension, and I'm like, oh, what are you doing? And then I relax it down once I'm aware of that, and I relax it down. But then I'll often find myself, I'll catch my body in that tension where I feel like that I'm managing my stress, and I'm doing all the things that I can, when really I'm not, because, it's like those practices that we do for stress ends up just being very surface level, so to speak. And so when it comes down to it, you feel, oh yes, I'm relieved in that moment, but they don't sustain you. It comes back so quickly, and next thing I know, I'm all tense again. And at the end of the day, I'm like, why am I so sore? My shoulders and everything's so sore. So, it's...
You're absolutely right. And you imagine if you're holding this for half an hour, you let it down. We got 30 minutes of tension just now that's built into your body's musculoskeletal system.
Yeah.
And it will stay there, even though temporarily you'll drop your shoulders again. And this is the whole thing. And when we look at everything that we try to do to make ourselves better, and often we don't know the problem that's causing the problem. It all comes from the outside in. The lotions, the potions, the medication, the touch, the coaching, the talking. You can't talk it out of the body. And that's not to say that none of those things work. They help, exactly as you say. They'll skim the top off the bucket. There'll be something that one can work with when there's nothing else. But the difference between everything that comes from the outside in is that your body has the key to let you release from the inside out.
Yeah.
And then that diamond, and we say every one of you's got a diamond inside that was created when you came into the world. Yeah. And just like diamonds, they're dark, but they need pressure to shine. And a baby born into caring, loving hands, and all the opportunities that life brings with great parents to support them on that diamond comes out to shine. But then there are those that are just born into a life that may be medical intervention, it may be abuse, neglect, abandonment, all kinds of scenarios. There may come a point where one has a happy life, and then somewhere along the line, tragedy strikes and that trauma happens. And the diamond gets buried in the bucket. So you can imagine that when you start to empty your bucket by thoughtfully activating your psoas, that's the tap that we guide our clients with, layer by layer, that diamond starts to come out to shine. And it's totally transformational, because suddenly it's like, wow, I feel empowered. I'm resilient. I don't want to be doing what I'm doing anymore. Actually, I want to be doing something else. I don't want to be with who I'm with at the moment. I want to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, it's absolutely amazing. And that is where all the other tools in the box are important. Because if you think the body remembers what you don't, if an incident came up in the practice, as it does, because it's just unblocking old memories, old feelings, old emotions, then the truth is found. And I share the example of somebody that said, I could see myself in my mother's arms at 6 months as a baby. I felt her rejection. And I said, you know, that's wonderful. Now you know the truth. And the truth is, it was not your problem, because you're only a baby.
Yeah.
Now you have to look at, well, what was in your mum's bucket that made her feel like that?
Yeah.
She may have been raped. The partner may have said, don't want anything to do with this, and left her holding the baby.
Yeah.
So then with all of that, one, you might need to talk to somebody. So that's where your counselors and your psychologists come in to just sort that, process that experience, and you can move forward.
Yeah.
Because you understand, you find the truth, you find forgiveness if it's there to be given, and you find peace with the situation.
Yeah.
And so many that suffer different situations. I've mentioned childbirth, you know, we've got relationships there, and dealing with the loss of loved one. It doesn't matter who that is, whether it's whether it's a pet or an adult partner, a loved one in the family, or friends. You know, that grief leads deep pain inside. I was talking to a lady last night who did my program 4 years ago, and she said, I didn't keep it up, but she's full of grief because her brother of 35 took his own life 2 weeks ago.
Oh dear.
And I said to her, and she got in touch because she said, I need to reconnect with the program. And I said, you certainly do. I mean, she has, and I'm sure many of your listeners will be familiar that she's got a narcissistic mother.
Yeah.
You know, the controlling and the pain that comes with that relationship, it can be damaging, very damaging in adult life, as it is. We work with many clients that have had to grow up with that problem.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That problem with a partner.
Yeah. And so what you're saying, what I'm hearing is, we're experiencing whatever it is that we're experiencing, and, you know, whatever trauma or things that have gone on in our lives, we're continually storing this in the body, and then that's creating the illness and the pain and everything like that. And so within your program, you actually teach them how to release it out of that muscle. Is that how it goes?
Yes,
can you share,
absolutely.
Is that in your book? I know that you've written that book, You Got to Feel It to Heal It. Is there instructions in your book? Can you share any of that, basics with us now, so people can get an idea of what that would entail for them?
Okay, well, the interesting thing is, I could teach a 10-year-old, and I have 10-year-olds doing the practice, how to teach anybody else to do it.
Yeah.
Let me remind you, like breathing, like heart, those systems are incredibly simple. We don't have to do anything, and yet they are absolutely the powerhouse of our very existence. And releasing is exactly the same. It's incredibly simple, but over my years of working with all different sectors of society and individuals, from the most highly traumatized one could ever, imagine, you can't imagine some of the stories that individuals share about what they've been through. You think, how can all that happen to one individual?
I know.
And so when they start releasing, it's a very powerful journey. And so therefore, and if one ever reads the book or listens to the book, one will hear those stories and think, wow, it takes courage for those that are highly traumatized to go on this journey, and we hold their hands all the way.
Yeah.
It is currently now, following COVID, an online program, so that we now reach out across the world, whether that's one-to-one, as we're speaking here, for those that need that support, or everything is in independent learning, but everyone has our support.
Yeah.
It's not anything you could pick up in a book. It's like, oh, this is how you do chiropractic. Well, can you imagine you saying to your friend, look, there's the instructions, jump on my back.
Yeah.
I have 9 years of experience, and I come back to your question that you asked. I hadn't forgotten. How did I get into this? I'm a great believer in synchronicity, and it found me.
Yeah.
When one of my yoga ladies, because I also teach yoga, have done for years, and before I came out of teaching, I was teaching in school, I was teaching yoga, so I got a good community. And one of my ladies told me about a practice she'd heard about. She hadn't learned, but she'd heard about it from a friend who had a visitor from South Africa. And she said, it sounds amazing, have a look at it. Well, I did, and coincidentally, my daughter living in South Africa, due to give birth to her first baby, I kept putting off buying the flight tickets. But then I made a phone call that night, and then I realized why. Because before I went to bed, I bought 2 tickets to South Africa, not only around the time of the birth, but the gentleman from America was teaching his last course in South Africa. Given the size of the country, can you imagine when she told me where the venue was, how joyful it was to say, do you know what? I know that venue. It's 5 minutes from where my daughter lives. Now, if the writing wasn't on the wall.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? It's incredible when I hear stories like that. It just gives me goosebumps. It's like you are on the right path.
Yeah. And I stood up at the end of that 3-day event and I said to 99 other people from around the world, I'm going back to make this happen in the UK. And there was no real organisation then, nobody was in the UK dealing with it. Well, there was somebody, but they weren't doing much with it, to be honest. And it coincided with me opening up my yoga studio, and I have to do this.
Yeah.
And I had great respect for the body. And when I was writing my book, I was delighted when I spoke to a gentleman that learnt it in my very first pilot group. Yeah. And 8 years on, he was 9 years on, he's still doing the practice. And he says to this day, this is what prevented the onset of my Parkinson's.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Yeah. That's incredible. So look, I know there's going to be people listening that really want to dive into what you're doing and, seek some more information from you. How can they get in contact with you? I'll make sure that, if you're listening to this on YouTube or on Facebook, you'll need to go to the speakers page to get all the links that we're going to be talking about. And so you need to register for the show, and the link is in the bottom of that video. But if you're watching it on the speakers page, the link will already be on the page. So tell us, how can someone get in contact with you or read more about this program?
So my website, Jodie, is treuk.com. And on the website, there is a page that shows you, information about the book. I also have some amazing well-being cards as well, which are wonderful to give those little daily activities, one a day, make yourself feel a little bit of bucket emptying, bucket love cards, I call them.
Yeah.
And so there's also a little snippet of the book you can read. The book is also on Amazon. It's on Audible, so you can listen to it if you're not, and it's not me reading it, interestingly enough. It's the lovely dulcet tones of a Scottish voice, a
Oh,
male voice.
lovely.
He's wonderful. Yeah, I'm really proud of the production of that Audible book. My contact details are on there. You can get in touch through the website or caroline@treuk.com.
Beautiful.
And I'm very happy if anybody wants a 15-20 minute chat, just like I'm having with Jodie, because everyone's bucket's full of different stuff and we always feel it's never going to work for me.
Yeah. If there's someone there is listening and they're like, I feel like there's something here for me. I feel like there's something I need to explore. I don't know. I think you just kind of get that intuition, let's call it. You get that intuition and you're like, actually, I feel like I need to explore this here. So we will make sure that Caroline's links are there so you can go and have a look and explore what the program has to offer and get those beautiful cards. That would be lovely. So thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing that incredible story and bringing awareness to us around this topic, which, you know, like I'm pretty sure no one would have heard of before, and help us understand about storing our trauma and grief in our body. So thanks again for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, so it's been a wonderful opportunity, you know, and I always say if one person can change their life, then it's worth every moment of sharing a message.
Yeah, 100%. So thanks again for being here, and to the audience at home, I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.